And welcome back to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. We're back in the same room again after our success yesterday. Hopefully the mics are working. I'm still learning, still figuring it out. But today it's like a showdown day. Facebook versus Trump. We have the UK versus France. And then we also a little friendly debate about males versus females in the athletic summit. Mark, how are you feeling today?
Well, as long as people can hear me pontificate, I feel good. I would make fun of you if the technology is not working right, but I have no idea what to do if it's not working right. So I will not make fun of you at all. Other than I see that you've really jazzed up your background again for day two.
I'm kind of feeling the void. We might keep it for a little while.
That is good.
The other option is an actual green screen. Like we could paint the wall green and then I would just be able to put myself in different places. So a lot of options. I'm just weighing them out, just feeling the space out, Mark.
Okay. Hey, I'm good. Whatever makes you comfortable. I'm just happy that we're up and we're running. Right. And here we are, day two in the room. If you hear music in the background, it's from our neighbors and the lack of soundproof walls. Everyone here knows that we're going live, but if someone bursts into the room and forgets, we could have a surprise guest at any moment. And that's kind of the fun of it. We won't have your dog barking in the background today, but hey, you take the good with the bad.
I think we've been talking about putting a couch in between the desks. I think that should be like a segment, like on the couch or like join us on the couch. Like when we just have random people walk in, they'll just have to sit down on the couch and just start going through these topics with us.
Oh, I thought you meant like they would lay down on the couch and we would talk them through life as their shrink who, we need to figure things out for them.
If anyone thinks that wouldn't be entertaining, they are wrongly.
We could. That's what we should do. We should just grab one person, like unbeknownst to them, say, listen, it's your session on the couch, and just be like, so they like when I was 5 years old, we
had talked about the other day. I mean, we're getting off topic. We had talked the other day about like people have reoccurring dreams. And I told you about my reoccurring dream and like what it meant. So maybe we'll do like a reoccurring dream segment where, and what does it all mean? We could do that someday.
That would be, we could do someday. Yeah. And we could have people comment in because like you talked about yours and I don't even remember what yours was. That's how much
mine was. This is the 10-second version. We're always in a vehicle. The vehicle always goes over the edge and we go into a body of water. Sometimes it's the ocean. Sometimes it's a river. And then it's a mad dash to get out of the vehicle to save not only yourself, but the people in the vehicle. And then I always wake up like on my last gasp. And I had that dream for like over a decade. And if you look it up and you talk to different people who are kind of like in that space, they'll tell you all these different things and what it means and what it is. So it is. And the crazy part about it is most people have dreams, obviously, but the majority of people have that one reoccurring dream.
I was going to say
that's consistent.
I was going to say that because mine, I don't have a one, but I have that like I'm late and I'm trying to get somewhere. And it often had to do with sports. I've been having these since high school. Like I can hear the band playing and I know they kicked off and for some reason I'm still in the locker room. And then I get all the way out to the sideline and I don't have my helmet and I have to go back to the locker room and get it. And then I realize I left my helmet at home and then so then I get back and I'm listening to the game on the radio and it's not always the same one, but it's always the same theme. Like there's a game and it started and I can't get to it. And even with it's a Keystone Cops aspect of getting to it. So it's all fascinating. I'm not sure what like people can tell you, oh, this is what it means. Your deal. I think there's a lot of hocus pocus to that too, but it would be fascinating because there is something to it.
We should do a poll or something in the Facebook group. Let's start with this today. Trump versus Facebook. Facebook basically came out, Trump saying that it's an attack on free speech. The reports are basically saying that the Facebook board decided, at least for now, to uphold the ban on him from the social media platform. You have people on the right basically saying that it's an attack on free speech. The irony there is as a private company, they're making and enforcing their own policies, which typically on the right is what they stand for. And it's a good conversation. I haven't really decided where I've landed on it yet because you and I have talked a lot about how with cancel culture and everything else that's going on, you and I have expressed concern about kind of free speech and what people are still allowed to do, and condemning people for something that maybe necessarily they shouldn't be condemned for. Obviously, with Trump, it's a different conversation necessarily, but Facebook kind of came back and said, hey, this is on us a little bit too. I don't know if did you see what the board actually said?
No, I saw that the Fox News report was Facebook upholds their decision even after announcing that they violated their own policy or something along those lines.
Yeah, so basically what the board decided is that Facebook should have removed Trump off of the platform, but the board also made the point that Facebook did not do a good job. They didn't give any necessarily like deadlines or things that they were trying to improve upon. They basically did not give the Trump administration anything to work with to get back onto the platform, right? So they just suspended them indefinitely without any way to get back on. And the board is saying that that was wrong. That if you're going to take somebody off of the platform, there should be clear guidance as to how long are they off of the platform, how do they get back onto the platform. And Facebook's own board is kind of like slapping them on the wrist. I don't know if that really matters in the Facebook world, but the board basically came back and said like, hey, like Mark Zuckerberg, you handled this wrong.
Well, and to comment on a couple of things you said, the aspect where you said is usually the right is the one who's supporting a private business that they can handle whichever clients they want and they don't want. And now in this instance, they seem hypocritical. This is a factor of society. From no matter what side you're on, no matter where you're at, you have these people tend to have these stern, fixated beliefs of this is how things should be until it works against them, and now all of a sudden that they change their mind. So that's
this one's a little different though, because there's free speech involved. Like you can't say it's not. I'm not saying that you or I are right or wrong, but to act as if there's not a aspect of free speech in it is just there is, and I think that's what makes it twisted.
Well, but free speech doesn't go into free speech covers that you're allowed to criticize the government. Free speech does not mean that like you have never been, if you send a 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or 5 days ago, if you send a letter to the newspaper, a letter to the editor, they don't have to publish it. If you call into a radio station, they don't have to put you on the air. Like just because we have the First Amendment and we have free speech doesn't mean that other people have to allow you to use their platform. You can't go to a billboard company and put something on the billboard that they don't want, that Lamar says, no, you're not putting that on this. So like all these companies still have power over their company. And just because free speech exists doesn't mean that you can go in. I mean, in that instance, you go into a restaurant and write all over the walls because it's free speech. And it doesn't work that way. So if they were...
Can I say what the difference is, though? So to me, the difference would be like the examples you used, a billboard, a restaurant, the newspaper. Those are all stationary things, for lack of a better word. Like they're all things that are confined in their spread and how far they can go. Facebook is different. Like Facebook, it breaks the borders of that idea of like a restaurant deciding like you couldn't say something or a newspaper deciding not to post a letter to the editor. The idea of not being allowed on Facebook is almost like not being allowed on a virtual, it's a virtual world that consists of the majority of the population. So I think it's different than the stationary ideas that you gave.
Well, it is, but it's still at the root of it. It's a company, and the company has the right to police it, because the aspect is Trump's not the only person that's ever been banned from Facebook. I have Facebook friends that are in quote unquote Facebook jail all the time.
Sure.
So they do have policies. They did not create a platform for people to spew all their hate and vile and whatever. Like they have rules. They created a platform for guys to meet girls is what they originally created a platform
for. That is true. So
it's not supposed to be about anger, and it's not supposed to be, and they have policies that, so it wasn't, the aspect of it is all Republicans don't get banned from it. All Republican politicians don't get banned. Like they banned Trump for a reason that they thought. And Facebook, Like here at NorthcentralPa.com, if there's somebody walking down the street right now that wants to come voice their opinion on here, and we say, no, we're not putting you on the show, we're not limiting their free speech. That's not what free speech doesn't mean. You get to say what you want, wherever you want, on whoever else's platform that you want. But free speech does allow Donald Trump to create his own platform, and now he's going to say whatever he wants. So those are the differences.
Yeah, I guess Facebook has just put us in a position where what happens when the platform becomes bigger than, like, I don't want to say the world, but what happens when the platform now is more powerful than necessarily like free speech? Like it is, Facebook has just put us into this position where being able to be on it almost is like, I'm not saying you have to be on Facebook, but to not be a member of it, you're clearly missing out on a part of society that the majority of society has deemed, I'm a part of this, or I should be a part of this.
Yes. And it, because it's so vast, but it's like a kid who's like, listen, if you want to be on the team, you have to follow the team rules. And so this is the big team. It is interesting on a more practical level. One of the aspects that they've talked about is Trump not being on Twitter and Facebook has really, really hurt his ability to raise money. And that's one of the other where the left comes in and says, if he had all this money that he needs, for a guy who allegedly has a lot of money and never released his taxes, for a guy who allegedly has a lot of money, he sure does a lot of fundraising. So that's from a practical aspect, as they look to 2024, if he can't use this platform to help raise money, it's really going to hurt his cause. But be that as it may, we're not even halfway through 2021, so 2024 is a long way off. But yes. It is interesting that Facebook has kind of said we need to make rules. We need to make more clear rules, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So what Facebook has basically done, the board has gone back, and basically Zuckerberg and Facebook are going to have to come up with, I don't want to say guidelines, but basically say what has to happen in order for him to return to the platform, and how long do they intend to do it. The board recommended 6 months before Trump could return to the platform. But that does not mean necessarily that's what Facebook or Zuckerberg will do. So that's kind of where we're at now with that.
If they called it double secret probation, I would see Facebook I would have so much respect for them right now. If they put a big stamp on and said that's what they should do with everyone. That you shouldn't be in Facebook, it should be a big stamp on your page that says double secret probation.
UK and France, fishing wars. You and I were pretty engaged in this earlier. The UK and France this morning were engaged in a naval standoff, a long simmering dispute over their post-Brexit. For those of you who know Boris Johnson, he basically had them leave the European Union. And fishing rights are one of the biggest disputes right now in the English Channel between France and the UK. France is threatening to turn off the power to one of the islands in the English Channel. I believe it's Jersey Port. Jersey is actually closer to France than it is to the actual UK, any part of the UK. So France is basically threatening to cut off power to one of the islands of the UK. And the UK is basically saying, like, you can't fish here. It was part of the agreement. So there is a naval standoff right now in the English Channel. Nothing too big, but there are a couple of patrol boats in the English Channel as this standoff is starting to come to a head.
I just see, what was that, The Perfect Storm. And I see, Marky Mark and George Clooney out on a fishing boat. Like the engine's dying and all that. That's what I see. But at first I was fascinated by this because if you know anything about geography, like France is part of bigger Europe, and England and the UK, and they're all up on these islands. And I thought, when you told me that France said we're going to cut off power, my first thought was they import all their power from Europe, like they don't have any power plants. And then you read further, and there's an island that is there. There's an island that's in between that is British owned, but it's really close to France. And they've just always got their power from France just because logistically it was easier. And what'd you say, like 100,000 inhabitants? And France is like, well, then we're gonna starve them out. We're not. If you don't let us catch our big fish, we ain't giving these people any power. So it is, I mean, I think the story's awesome. Like, it's over fishing. Like, can't you just, like, I'm picturing Forrest Gump too. Like, you know, the nice guys are going to win out here and the bad guys are going to die in a hurricane. So I can't imagine that in 2021, like, it's almost like this is the year 1021 where fishing was the only industry and it's the only way they could eat. You know, this is 2021 and they're like, no, you can't fish here. You have to fish over there. I'm also picturing like old guys at Rose Valley Lake on the first day of fishing, like fighting over their spots. Like, this to me is great.
So over 50 boats joined the protest. Fishing industries are huge. Fishing industries, especially for a lot of countries, it is like it almost sustains what they're able to do as far as keeping their society going. So it's not, I mean, there are things that definitely countries could fight over that seem more prevalent, but fishing rights, I mean, they have to be, if you really sat down and thought about it, fishing rights have to be in like the top 10, top 5 for most of these countries.
Not
Yes.
France and England.
I'm just,
I mean, I picture like the Karate Kid 2, where they go to Mr. Miyagi's little fishing village. Like, I get it, but not France. Like,
I don't know.
There's
I don't know.
no.
France is a coastal country on both sides.
I get it.
It's not, you know, like it is. I bet you it's I don't know for a fact. We'd have to look it up. It has to be one of their major like imports and exports.
The country with Paris and the Louvre really cares about fishing?
I think they do. How can you can't be a coastal country and not care about it. It has to be.
Whoops. Sorry, I'm dropping stuff. I mean, I guess I'm sure they care about it, but I guess, I don't know. I think it
has to be.
I think it's a great story. We're gonna cut off your power if you don't let us fish. And then I see the guy with the rod in the water, and someone coming on and cutting the lines, and this is great. This is great entertainment.
Give Wise Markets a shout.
Thank you to Wise Markets. If you need fish because you can't buy any over in Europe because they can't catch any, just go to Wise Markets because they have fresh stuff. And you know, it's actually I don't think I was there yesterday. I haven't been there in a couple of days, so which is crazy for me.
That's unusual.
I know I'm in there like every other day, and but thank you to Wise Markets for our title sponsors. It's part of like the shop local is one of the things that we've done through this through the epidemic that we've kind of tried to reemphasize of local things and local industries, and obviously Wise Markets was, you know, born and raised in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, and which is obviously not only in our region, but there are so many stores in our regions locally, and I'm not just talking about supporting the big headquarters, but you know what they do in each community, and the managers and the checkout people and the stock people and the truck drivers and all those people that support local people in our industry or in our area as well. So thank you to Wise Markets. They do have the Wise to Go. You can call ahead and you can order, and I know that is one of the things that the world has changed through this pandemic, and Wise Markets is one of the grocery stores on the cutting edge of that you can call ahead and order, and you can go pick up your stuff. And so if you've never done it, look into it, and if you have done it, you can obviously keep doing it. And I know people that you said your sister does it. I know people that started doing it during the pandemic, and they love it.
Yeah, no, Weiss is great. Let's go to a story that I think it's going to gain traction, especially as we get closer and closer. If we're able to have a true Olympic Games.
I guess we should mention before you go on that we will bring the wheel back tomorrow. We're trying to figure out how to set it up because we have camera angles, and in the new room. First, we want to just be able to talk, and then we want to be able to put the wheel up. But we haven't figured that out yet. But we're gonna try to have it tomorrow. If not, we'll definitely have it by next Monday.
Yes. So there is a weightlifter out of New Zealand. Poised to become the first transgender Olympian. Laurel Hubbard, 43, has effectively been guaranteed a spot in the women's super heavyweight category in the Tokyo Olympic Games. Laurel had competed before 2013 when she had transitioned. She had competed in the men's weightlifting competitions. Because of the way the spots work, basically if she wants to do it, she's going to make it. So that's why they're saying, even though she technically isn't in yet, they're saying it's all but a guarantee that she will get a spot in the Tokyo Olympic Games. So a lot of different ways to touch on this. I will let you touch it first.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that. Listen, in general, there's a lot of aspects. I'm kind of a centrist in many aspects of political life. Sometimes fiscally, I'm conservative and I'm not an overspender. Especially in my real life, I'm not an overspender. Socially, I'm very liberal. I am supportive of the what do they call it? The alphabet mafia now, or whatever, the LBGTQ, whatever I don't know if I got all the letters.
You've setting up a good defense for yourself.
Did I do it right so
Yes.
far? And I am like totally supportive. Like, do what you want to do. In the sports world, the transgender men who are competing as women, even we see it down all the way to the high school levels. It's so blatantly unfair. I don't know how this continues to go on, and I can only imagine the difficulty that people, the struggles of being a transgender must, like, internally kind of coming to grips with who you are as and then outwardly once you tell people, and I can only imagine how tough their lives are, and I get that, but to then it just I can understand a female that transitions to a male, and this is going to be the sexist aspect of it. A female that transitions to a male should be allowed to compete because you're not bigger, stronger, faster. But the reason they have men's and women's sports in track and in tennis and in soccer and in basketball and whatever is because men are bigger, stronger, faster. And to transition from a man to a woman in life, they should be allowed. And they should have all the same rights as everyone else, and they should not be looked upon as, and looked down upon or whatever. It's their life and it's their decision, and it's what works for them. But in sports, when you take someone who was a guy 2 years ago and now you put them up against someone who's been a girl her whole life, it's just not fair. Right. And you see all these stories of track and field where they're dominating, and wrestling where they're dominating, and of course they're dominating.
Yeah. So just before I touch on what you just said, there is some science behind it. She's been eligible to compete in the Olympics since 2015 because the IOC issued guidelines allowing any transgender athlete to compete as a woman, provided that their testosterone levels are below a certain mark. So you could argue there is some science behind the decision of who's eligible and who is not eligible. This is when they first started allowing high school students to compete. It didn't bother me. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I said, this is really going to affect like 3 high school teams across the country. Like maybe you'll have this dominant male athlete who decides to become a woman. And now all of a sudden, like he's killing it on the volleyball court or something. But it's really, in the grand scale of things, I didn't think it would affect it. I really thought the first time it would really become a problem is when you had like some sort of professional athlete decide to cross over. Because what you hinted at is it's one thing to have a male cross over and compete against females. It's another thing to have a professional male switch over and compete against professional females. Because it is like, even if just myself competed against someone my age that's a professional male, they would destroy me. Like it's funny to look at these professional athletes and you look at some of these wide receivers and these basketball players, it's almost like we're not even the same species.
Right.
And so that to me was when it was really going to be like, not what are we doing, but where is the line? How do we figure this out? Because once professional males start becoming professional women and wanting to compete on that side, now it's like you said, there's just no way that it's truly fair. It isn't. And it's not about prohibiting lifestyle. It's just from a competitive fairness in athletics. How do you even balance that? I don't know if you can.
Well, that's, and because there's a small enough sample, and in the transgender world, I don't know how big the sample ever becomes. Now that society has advanced more and it is more socially acceptable to be gay and lesbian. I think we're seeing many, many more people that are out that are gay and lesbian. But I don't know how that works in the trans world, and we won't know. If in a perfect world, there would be enough trans athletes that they could compete against themselves. And there would be multiple. There would be the men's track and field, the women's track and field, and the trans track and field. And that would work. But how many weightlifters are there? There just aren't enough to compete. So there's no perfect solution, because you don't want to deny these trans people the ability to compete. I get that. But when you're putting them in a position where they are competing against people that have, you can see there are stories that float around of high school. You can Google it and find track and field athletes that are dominated. And it's one of the places is wrestling, because girls wrestling is growing so much, and you're seeing girls wrestle against someone who, before they transitioned was a guy. And, I know the hormonal level they can affect, the muscle mass, men's and women's bodies are just built differently.
The other interesting thing is you never knew, like, as far as the Olympics go or on a professional stage, you never knew what sport would be like the first one. Weightlifting, to me, like, there is a bit of, like, irony is not the word, but could you think of a sport that it would be more of an advantage than weightlifting?
No, I agree. That's a very good point.
That's the other side of this too, is it's not like tennis, where at least, like, there's the size of the court doesn't change, and like I go all the time and I see females. My aunt was a good female tennis player, and, like, I'm sure she could beat a lot of the males that are out there. So it's just weightlifting doesn't help the scenario. Like, it doesn't help the conversation that the first time an Olympian is going to do this, it's weightlifting.
Right. No, and this is something that, again, as society's progressing, as we're becoming more and more tolerant, I hope, it's something that's going to come up more and more. But it is, you do read some of these high school articles, and it is entirely unfair to these girls who are losing to, So anyway, I'm repeating myself.
So I think the way to end it is, like, we hope Laurel competes well. Like, we hope that she has success. The hard part is just going to be, like, finding a level playing field for her, like you had hinted at, is how do we find a way where Laurel can compete, and neither side, it's not, they feel like they're able to represent themselves, but they're also able to do it in a manner where it doesn't feel like it's unfair, where it doesn't, and that's, so good luck to Laurel. We're hoping for the best. This is a lot of baseball stuff going on, summer sport, we're getting there. MLB is obviously playing. We've gotten some Little League news lately, but it's also a big birthday today.
Well, I just wanted to mention this because we were talking about topics, and I don't know how many people, it is. I obviously, baseball is very near and dear to my heart. Today's Willie Mays' 90th birthday. He is the oldest. Not only is he on the Mount Rushmore of great baseball players of all time, Willie Mays is probably there. With Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron and Lou Gehrig, and you can make arguments, but you don't go very far down the list before you get to Willie Mays. If you have not seen the catch that he made in the 1954 Olympics today online, you will see it because it's all over. It was it was 2-2 in the 8th inning when he ran that ball down in dead center field in the Polo Grounds. So, but he is the oldest living Hall of Famer, and Willie Mays certainly special. Yesterday, there was just a little tidbit of what makes baseball also special, and the irony of the world sometimes. One of the things about baseball is great. In other sports, and in basketball, you can get a triple double, and in football, you get the guy. But baseball, there's always the chance of the no hitter, and there's always the chance to hit for a cycle, which is even more rare than a no hitter. So it could make any normal game a historic game. And yesterday, the Orioles, John Means threw a no-hitter, and I think it was the first Oriole no-hitter since 1991. People were texting me that, like, the last Oriole to take a no-hitter into the 9th inning was your brother back in 97, I would say. So this is like a third. It's been 30 years since the Orioles threw a no-hitter, and it just happened to be the same day that one of their legendary pitching coaches passed away. And the pitching coach died earlier in the day, and then a guy went out through a no-hitter. So if you want to look for any, like, cosmic universal symbolism or whatever that goes down to. But so that happened yesterday. So I just wanted to throw that out as baseball is kind of ramping up. And baseball, it seems to be, I know they announced Broadway's coming back with full houses, I think in September. I think baseball is going to be the first sport. I don't know when it's going to happen, and maybe after the All-Star break and maybe whatever, but I think baseball will be the first sport that allows capacity crowds. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's coming. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
So a little Moneyball, hard not to be romantic about baseball, right? With the no-hitter story. Little League announced they're going to have, correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to have 16 American teams. They will not be having the international play come for the Little League World Series.
Yes. Okay. And, it is, I don't know if we noticed this, if anyone cares. Hockey has done that. Hockey has regrouped this year. All the Canadian teams there's 7 Canadian teams. They've only played against themselves. Hockey has totally regionalized themselves. Like in the East, there's 3 New York teams, a New Jersey team, 2 PA teams, a Boston and a Washington. They've only played each other. The Canadian teams up north have only played each other. The Western teams have only played each other. So you can see not only this from a sports world, but from an international world. Countries are trying to help with COVID and figure this out as best they can. And it's not a perfect solution because obviously part of what makes the Little League World Series great is the international competition. When we've seen the African teams show up, has been great for the sport. And the Far East teams have always done so well. But they really want to play, so they've expanded and have more U.S. teams. And hopefully next year, 2022, that they'll be back to the original format where they have a bunch of American teams, but all the international teams as well.
Yes, we will miss the international teams. This is the one, and we don't have to talk about this very long. I still don't understand why there is not a host team. I still, like in the Olympics, like the hosting country for the Olympics, they have to have a competitor in every event. I still don't understand why there is not every year
Pennsylvania team,
a Pennsylvania team. I can't, to me, first of all, more people are going to come. They're going to be able to raise more money for Little League. To me, it's a no-brainer. And it's just, I don't know. It makes too much sense to me that Pennsylvania would be their own region and they would always have a host team.
Not only, with the team from Clinton County up here when Keystone made it, but was it Redland?
Yes.
They came in droves. And it was, Redland's down by York. Yes. So it's a 2-hour drive. But, I mean, you're right. It is interesting. And you're not saying, like, there would still be a New York team and there'd still be a Mid-Atlantic region.
All your regions would be the same. You would just cut PA out of it. Or if you wanted to tighten it, I'm not saying it has to be, like, perfect. But I'm just saying the idea that there's not a host team, a local team every year, I just don't. On sports' biggest stage, the Olympics, they respect the host enough that you have to have a competitor. And sometimes, like, was it England that just had it, I think, 8 years ago or 10 or 12 years ago? And England got smoked in some of it because they just don't have but they had a competitor in every event because they're the host. It makes too much sense.
I've heard you make the argument before, yes. And the more you make it, the more I'm like, from a marketing standpoint, I'm with you. And your Olympic analogy is perfect. Yeah. So the first time you said it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of stupid. But the more you bring it up, it would, because we here think of Keystone and how packed it was. But Redland is another one. Like, yes. They were not right next door. They had to make the drive. And everybody from the southern part of the state made the drive.
And even Monet Davis, like, I know it was Philly and everything else, and Monet herself brought a whole shift to the stadium. But really, like, there were people from Pennsylvania just excited there was a Pennsylvania team. Even if Monet Davis wouldn't have been on that team.
When you started that word, you were talking, she brought a whole I did not, I thought it was going to be a load of interest. That's right. Like, I thought you were going somewhere else, and I'm like, Jeff, I don't know if you should say that.
No, obviously the city of Philadelphia didn't come to the stadium, but the state of Pennsylvania kind of shifted towards the stadium more than a year where there wasn't a Pennsylvania team.
I'm totally, I thought the first time you told me that idea, I thought it was stupid. Now I don't think it's stupid anymore. You have won me over.
There you go. That's all I was looking for.
You have won me over.
And just in case you forgot to wrap up the show, Bill Gates is still single. So he's officially 3 days single.
Is Melinda Gates still single? That's all I care about.
I don't know. We'll have to look out.
Bill, I don't know if I've made this clear. Bill is not my type. I'm not sure if Melinda's my type, but I'll give it a shot.
All right. Okay. Well, Bill, still 3 days single. We'll keep you
What
posted.
happened while I'm keeping my option of what's Bezos' wife doing? Bezos' wife, whatever.
Know.
Is she out there on the market or is
I don't
she?
know. But that divorce was nastier, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
That one got pretty ugly.
I think that sounded like to me that somebody who really like thought they were in love and had been mistreated. Okay. That was a jilted lover, I think. This one seems to be kind of amicable, like we're just kind of going.
I'm pretty sure, I said to you the other day, he gave 1.8 billion of stock to her, and that was not a court-driven decision.
Yeah, but do you see how many billions he has?
I understand that, but still.
This would be the equivalent of like you having $341 bills in your pocket and you give your ex $1.80.
Yeah, but there's a lot of divorces that people would not give that dollar.
You know, and that would be a fascinating, as we've talked about having psychologists, and how many divorces are really as angry. We have this belief that they're all that angry and they're not.
Give me a percentage before we go.
That are really angry?
Yes.
As I've gotten older and I've been through one of my own and I've seen other people, I would say 50-50.
I think it's more.
I think 50% of them are peaceful and amicable, and we still have disagreements, but just
how many divorces with kids come off as amicable because of the kids, but really behind scenes, it's not that amicable.
I think more of them get along than you would think.
Okay.
I really do.
I would be shocked if it was 50-50. I think it's more 70-30, 75-25 towards anger.
Don't get me wrong. It ain't, they ain't running up and hugging people, but I think it's because I think for a lot of people, once you take the tension, that immediate tension, and all you have to deal with is the kids, and there are those that use the kids as pawns and fight back and forth through it. But I think a lot more of like, hey, Joey has a soccer game. Can you drive? And we got to get, and it comes to, it just becomes a lot more practical. Like, okay, you take Joey to soccer. I'll pick up Susie from dance. She needs something for school, so we'll swing by Wise Markets on the way home and we'll buy, I think I think it's more than you thought.
You think the kids actually drive it towards being amicable?
Well, if there aren't kids, then when the divorce is easy because you don't have to talk to each other anymore. Then it's just you go their separate ways and they talk.
But to me, those are the divorces where I'm not giving you the dollar. Because I have no reason.
I see your point.
Yeah.
I see your point. Maybe.
50,
I don't know.
50 is bold to me. I think 50-50 is a bold call.
I've talked, as I've gotten older, I've talked to people, and obviously we have friends who've been through divorces and stuff like that. And one of the things that is the people who get along with the spouse's exes, and I've talked to multiple women who, in dealing with the kids, the wives talk, and the one that the husband, like one was married to the husband before and one was married to the husband now, and they just go right to the women because the husband causes the fights. So or the exes are so bitter that the woman can't deal with her ex-husband, but she can deal with his new wife better. So there's a lot more adult handling of these situations than I would have ever thought when I was younger. I'm going to say 50-50.
We have to at some point have like a dating psychologist or a love psychologist, somebody come on so we can just ask them about this and they can give us stats and different things.
Yeah, they have that. It's called Google.
No, that's not the same.
You just muted my mic.
I don't think I did.
It says mic is muted.
No, it wasn't me.
It says it right there on my screen.
Must have been the people who were speaking. I don't know what to tell you. I think they can hear you. If you can't hear Mark,
now it's gone. Now it's gone. Maybe I'm back. Now it's back. There it is.
So we'll keep you posted on Bill Gates, 3 days single. Mark will keep you posted on Melinda, and we'll keep it going from there. Anything before we go, Mark?
I'm afraid I can't comment on anything.
Well, the good.
I'm back. Am I back now? I think I'm back now.
We don't want that.
The hell's going on?
All right, that's enough for today. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being our title sponsor. Thanks to Jeff Everett and Mark Messina for hosting. Have I ever thanked us? We're 75 episodes in. I don't think I've ever thanked you. Thank you, Mark, for being a part of this. Appreciate it. And thank you to NorthcentralPa.com for having us, and go there for all your local news. We will be back tomorrow, hopefully with the prize wheel, and we'll get you guys ready for your weekend going forward. Say goodbye, Mark.
Bye.